like to welcome everybody. In my welcome, I want to do one thing. I want to make a recognition also, and we're tardy on this, but we're a few days late, but last Friday was Veterans Day, and we have in our midst a few folks that I would like to just say thank you to. And I know we've got some on the board, we've got some in the audience, and if anybody is a veteran, if they just throw the hand up or
Got one right here.
right here. I just really appreciate them and their family, and I read something, and I want to share it right here. If y'all will allow me just a minute. It says, "We do not glorify war. We remember with great humility the great and the ultimate sacrifices that were made in every war and conflict where our service personnel have fought to ensure the liberty and freedoms that we now take for granted." And I felt like, I really liked that when I saw it. And I just wanted to take just a moment and thank not only the people that have served, but their families for the sacrifices and everything. And I just wanted to bring that up in the meeting this morning. So I just appreciate everyone. Thank you very much. And now, and again, welcome our audience.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I might interrupt because I got to escape Vietnam, but you didn't. And
No,
I appreciate you and your service back in those real trying times. I remember I was telling a group at Rotary yesterday that what convinced me to not go into engineering for a while, or I was thinking of going to seminary, was when we were in formation in Navy ROTC, and across the lawn there where we were formed up, it's a sidewalk through the campus, 3 guys were burning the American flag. And that was what put me over the hump as to what I was going to do for the next few years.
well, I appreciate that. And yeah, I guess I was like a lot of us, a lot of people and everything. I spent a little bit of time over there. I got my higher education at the University of Saigon, so. All right. With that, Heavenly Father, we want to thank you, Lord, for this day, and thank you, Lord, for the folks that are here today, and for the reason that we are here, Lord. And we ask that you put your blessings on this meeting, and bless everyone that is here, and things that are done today. We ask that they be in your likeness, Lord. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, now the approval of the minutes. The minutes were sent to all of us. And if anybody got any issues with that, if not, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
I abstain.
Okay, got one abstention. Okay. So now the minutes are passed, okay. Approval of the financial statements. They were also sent to us, and they're in your packet today also. Y'all had a chance to look at that. Any comments? You got anything that you need to bring up? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the financials. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. None opposed? Okay. They are approved. Okay, the next on our agenda is our airport director's report. Terry, we'll open the floor up to you.
All right. Main thing is very obvious. You see it as you come in the driveway now. All of the construction that's taking place around the airfield. And as you enter the property, the first project on the right is, of course, the A&P school. And their site preparation work is just about complete. They're waiting now, as I understand it, to start the final dimensioning of the foundation. And then there will be rebar put in there, concrete poured, it'll be allowed to cure, and then we'll see a building going vertical. The other big piece that directly affects us is they are currently laying in the sewer line that will run from their property and connect into our, we call it the flagpole manhole because it's the manhole closest to the flagpole out here at the Hangar 1 building. And they've made that connection now. They've cored and gone in and made the pipe connection and made it all the way to the road. We're not going to want to tarry too long because they're about to cut the driveway into, and we may be trapped here for a few days, but they're going to put a gravel bypass just to the north of the road so we will be able to get out. But that's all happening today. And so then they'll be ready, when the building is ready, to connect the sewer to that point. Then it becomes our problem, and so that brings us to the construction that you see out this window and to the north of the airfield here, which is the City of Dallas sewer line connection. That has begun, and we are just about through with what's called the BMPs. Those are the irrigation. Help me, Jacob, what am I looking for? Erosion, thank you, erosion control mitigation pieces that have to be put in to keep the dirt where it needs to be and out of the creeks. And so then there will be the 7-day inspection letter comes after that, and then we're ready to start installing the sewer line once everybody agrees that all of the water around the airfield is being protected from that project. And so that will begin actual laying of pipe. Will begin probably sometime in December, late December, maybe early January. They will start at the City of Dallas end coming this way. So the last thing that you will see out the window will be where it connects into our little lift station out here. And Randy has the dubious task every Monday or so, going out and lifting the manhole and making sure that sewage is staying down where it needs to be because that pump is failing again. And so far it's hanging in there, but we're holding our breath that it lasts until we get a connection made. Because we don't want to have to spend money putting another pump in there. And the last pump that we put in, we just put a cheap Home Depot style village pump, you know, like you might put in your basement. And so it's not really rated for that, but it's doing the job. And all it really has to do is keep the gray water pumped into our field line that's across the runway. So we monitor that, make sure that it's hanging in there. And if it fails, we'll put another one in just to get us to the point where we're formally connected to the City of Dallas. And then our septic tanks, our 3 septic tanks on the property here will get pulled out. And we will then be, just like every other commercial building in the county that's tied to public sewage, and we no longer have to maintain that infrastructure here, which will be good news for the airport, and will now allow us to develop further. The school, of course, is the thing that pushed us over the edge. We were able to keep up with everything we've done so far, but the reason the pump failed in the first place probably has to do with bringing the business center online and the additional personnel that we're carrying in that building over there. And so it's just time. The bottom line is this system has served its purpose. It was always intended to be an interim to get us to the point where we are right now. And the timing has worked out almost perfectly. And once we're converted over, then the airfield would no longer have a sewage-related limitation on the number of businesses and hangars and events that we can have in this building and so forth. So that's probably the biggest short-term benefit that we're getting. Then the most exciting to me is the project you see out my window, looking at the north ramp over here. And as you came down the driveway, what you saw was the water line that comes to this building being moved, because currently the water line runs right through the middle of the north ramp because it was put in before the ramp was built. And now we're getting ready in the near future to put vertical buildings there, the T-hangers that we've got to sign for that space. And we don't want to put a concrete slab for a building on top of the water line. So the first thing that has to happen is that water line has to move. Then we're moving a ditch line. Greystone was kind to donate 6-inch PVC pipe. If you've been to Home Depot lately and you've priced PVC electrical conduit. You know that it's pretty pricey. Well, this is the industrial size 6-inch pipe that they're going to put under the 2 new taxiways so that they can then come back later and run their power lines, and we won't have to dig up the pavement there to get to the buildings to put the power meters on them. So a big thank you for them for doing that at no charge to us. They didn't have to do it, but that's something they do because they're a good partner here at the airport and because we pay them, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 a month in power bills already. So, so they'll get theirs in the long term, but it is good working with those guys, and we thank them for that. So Helix is the contractor that's working over here. They're doing a good job so far. They've been very easy to work with. They're getting ready to move the fence line. Once that's done, they'll do all of the storm drain modifications. Then they'll build the new taxiways, and they'll be out of here. And we'll have a site prepped and ready to go for 4 hangar buildings. And then the next thing that we're going to want to do, in order to move north, we're going to have to move our driveway, as it's always been contemplated, to go into what we call Airport Parkway Extension, which is right through the middle of the ridge that's right behind us. And so we're going to go to bid sometime after the first of the year on that project. And so we will be opening up the automobile access to get to the terminal area expansion project, which is where all this waste dirt's going. And then we will be able to pave taxiways and build hangars over here. So airports, I always say this, airports are always built incrementally. We're no different. The only thing that's different is we're 15 years old, where PDK is 100 years old, almost. And so they've had a lot longer to be at this game than we have, and that's why they look a lot more like a finished airport than we do. Remember that we were the first airport to open in 33 years on the day we opened. So every other airport in Georgia was 33 years old or more the day we opened. And so, we're spending our money wisely. We're developing the airport pretty much in accordance with the original plan from 2008, December 15th, I think it was, in 2008 when this airport opened. And so we're sticking with the plan, and we're progressing quite well. And I just couldn't be prouder of the team, of y'all, of GDOT, of Holt, of our subcontractors and general contractors that are doing all the work around here. I really have no problems to report construction-wise. So far we've had great weather up until the last day or two. I always tease my bidders, every time we go to bid, I always say, now I've scheduled a drought to begin on the day we open the bids, and plan accordingly, bid accordingly. Of course they don't, but sure enough, the last 2 years, the day we signed the contracts pretty much started the drought that this year just ended the other day when that tropical storm passed through town. But we still only got 1 inch of rain from it. We only had 1 inch of rain overnight. So we've had 2 inches of rain in the last 10 weeks. And so construction has been just booming out here because of the good conditions. So again, all good news, no significant problems. You always have the little technical issues that you have to resolve that goes with any big construction project, and we work those every day. Everything is on schedule, on track, and the money's holding up good. Right now, we're not looking at any cost overruns. Life's good in the construction world out here, which as you know, Harold, you can't always say that, can you? So, just very happy with where we are. And that's really kind of the focus of my attention right now. All of the other things are kind of just running like clockwork. We have installed a new software package that allows us to count operations. So we now have an auditable counting system that is keyed off of the new ADSB system that went operational a couple of years ago. And I can now tell you that 2 days ago we hit 279 operations in one day. A couple of weeks ago, we hit 299. And I wanted to go out and do another landing to make it 300. We haven't broke 300 yet. Yesterday, we had 0. If you think about what the weather was yesterday, there was no flying that took place here yesterday, and that happens at airports our size. Back when the tropical storm came through, we had a couple of jets that came in despite the bad weather, and that day we had 4 operations. But when you average it out over time, we've been tracking now for about 30 days or so, and it looks like we're gonna run somewhere in the 30,000 to 50,000 operations per year. In a year, I can tell you exactly, and I can tell you what types of planes they were. We'll be able to tell you how many of them were based aircraft, how many of them were transient, and the class. So I'll be able to tell you if they're multi-engine jets or single-engine trainers, and everything in between. And that will help guide our justification for projects that we're doing in the future. Everybody always asks, what are your operations? The FAA, that's the first question they always ask, and you always have to guess. Well, now airports are finally beginning to be able to access these tools that give precise answers to that. And I've had conversations with GDOT. They're even considering making this a statewide program and installing these systems at all airports, which would be a very helpful thing for aviation in Georgia. So now they'll be able to mathematically tell you to the decimal point how many operations per day, per hour, per week, when are the busy days, the slow times, for every airport in the state. So I very much support that, and we'll work to try to make that happen. But in the meantime, we're going to have our own system operating here, which we can terminate at any time. But we need to know that information. And someday we'll be making the decision about going to a control tower. And the biggest input to that is going to be how many operations do you have a day and when are they? So we will be in a position to answer that when the time comes. That's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions about where we are, what we're doing, problems? Sam?
Yeah, I noticed a few more airplanes on the tie
They
down.
keep coming in. I don't know what to do about that.
Do you know how many new tenants you have or airplanes that you have now?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I can tell you it's about 40. We
Okay.
have about 40 based aircraft. At the end of this month, I'm going to update the FAA database, which I do every year about this time, because that's an important input to the tax office when they start doing their assessments on trying to collect the taxes that the county is due. And if they don't know what airplanes are out here, then they can't get an accurate tax base for the county. So my timeline is I try to have that done about now. And in December, they start working on their notices that go out about the first of the year. Pilots then have until, I think it's April 15th, to file a return to the county disputing either the value of the aircraft that the county has put on it, or sometimes they say, well, I'm based at another airport, I'm only at Alding County part of the time, that kind of thing. And so that whole process kicks off, as I say, with our updating of our FAA-based aircraft database. And after that, I will send you an email and I'll tell you exactly how many airplanes we have. But it's on the order of 40.
Okay, and we still have the 2 flight schools, right?
We actually have a 3rd flight school now. There's a McCollum Flight School that is now, I think it's still sitting there. There's one that's painted up like an Army
Yeah.
paint scheme. And they're actually in right now. That airplane is getting a radio upgrade from our avionics shop that's new to us. And they want to leave either that plane or another trainer here permanently for their students and instructors that are on this side of town. And so we've worked that out with them, and of course happy to have them, even though they won't have an office here, because we don't have any more offices.
Do you know which flight school it is?
Yeah, Yolanda's gonna tell me because she keeps the record.
She's thinking.
Great adventure.
Great Adventure, I think that's it, yeah, Great Adventure.
Good job.
Good job, Yolanda.
Good.
Any other questions?
And
Yes, sir.
tying into Sam's question, I need, there's so many things going on in the county that timelines kind of get blurred, so maybe it'll help others too if you review it. When, as I recall, we're gonna have 6 T-hangers in T-hangerville. When would the first one, you think, be ready to, and then how many people are on the waiting list, which I know is,
We have passed 100. We have over 100 people on the waiting list now. In T-Hanger South, we're calling this project T-Hanger South, we can build 4 buildings. I am proposing that the 2 T-Hanger buildings in there, we build with local funding so that our tenants have those, and the 2 outside buildings to be built by investors. And I've got an investor who's also a tenant here who's very interested in that. He's still working the numbers. We'll make that decision after the construction project is finished over here. But each building of the size that we're proposing to put up is 10 units. So if we build these 2 units here, that would give us 20 spaces that we, the airport, could lease. They would then have, the investor would have 5 in each building because they're the block buildings on the end, and they only get 5. The doors only open on one side, and they get 5 per unit. They're a little bigger, they rent for more money, but you only get 5 in a building instead of the 10 that we can get. And so that is all that's gonna fit here. Then T-Hanger North, when we get ready to build up there, we can put 3 of the T-Hanger buildings, so that would be 30 more, and then 2 of the end square buildings that go on the ends. So that would be 40, so 40, 50, 60, 70. So that gives us 70 total units when we're fully built out, against a list today that has over 100 on it. And we all know that when I was looking for a hangar, my name was on probably half a dozen airports around here, their waiting list, and that's pretty common. But I can tell you with certainty that the tenants that are tied down at this airport, if they had an opportunity to jump into a hangar at their own airport where they're currently based, they're going to take that. And so the 20 or so that are currently tied down, and we've got another 20 or so in our existing hangar buildings. So that's how you get to the 40 number. But these 20 plus airplanes that you see out the window here, every one of them is, and I get phone calls from several of them, you know, pretty regularly. What's the update? When might we see hangars? They all want to be in these new buildings. So we're going to fill up those 20 the day they open. There's no doubt in my mind. And if we get a reputation for being an airport that's moving forward and growing, people will come here. There are, I can name right now 3 Paulding County residents who have their airplanes, y'all know some of them, at Polk County because they could get hangars out there. They want to be here, but they got a hangar there. I can think of a couple more that are at Cartersville. You know, if you live in the north side of the county, Cartersville is not too far from you. And so they're up there because they could get a hangar up there. And so far, we don't have a hangar to offer. So, and those people aren't on the waiting list. They just, you know, they know that someday they would like to be here if we had adequate hangar space here. So we are not going to have a problem filling up these spaces.
my other question had to do with, I don't know if you spoke with me over the phone or it may have been at a previous meeting, but there was a big military exercise that we were gonna be able to host.
So Fort Benning, I think it is, does an annual exercise, and they have told me I can share this. There's no, you know, nothing, no trade secrets or military secrets given up. I mean, it's just part of the standard training that they do. But they will come in and they will do an aggressive takeover, simulate an aggressive takeover of a hostile airport. So they will parachute in 700 or 800 paratroopers. The plan is to bring 2 to 5 C-17s for them to jump out of, some number of C-130s, and some number of helicopters, and they're going to set up camp. They're going to take over the airport, set up camp, secure the perimeter, simulate, you know, neutralizing whatever forces might be in play here, and by sunrise the next day, they're gone. And so it's an overnight exercise, gonna take a great deal of planning. They're planning to start the meetings here for that in January. And the operation date, action date, would be sometime about this time next year. So it's about a 12-month exercise. And it was very interesting. They've apparently done this at several airports before. And one of the first things the guy said, he said, now we're gonna get you in touch with this office, and they're the ones that are in charge of handling the claims of the things we break, because we know when we drop 700 people on your airfield, we're gonna break taxiway lights and this and that. And he said, and we're gonna get you in touch with people that are gonna write you a check to fix them the day we leave. So whatever they break, they're good for. And you know, that's always the case anytime the military comes out here. If anything ever gets broken or damaged, you know, they want to maintain good relations with the public airports where they train, because it's just so important to the troops. So
They'll probably have to lock Yolanda and Randy up for 24 hours.
I'm guessing there's going to be some interesting things that happen overnight that night. But they said that they would provide a public relations person to come work with us that will help us with getting the word out to the community so that everyone understands it's not Red Dawn, if y'all have seen that movie. And so that will all be handled appropriately when the time comes. But we're excited to be able to participate in that level of training for our troops. And I mean, all you have to do is look at the news this morning, and you know, we got to be ready, and we got to be ready no matter where the conflict might take us. And for us to have a hand, even a small hand in that, is just so vitally important for this community and this airport. By the way, the reason we were selected, there's apparently a young airman, they didn't identify who he was, but he's from Paulding County, and he said, I want to do the exercise at my airport. And so that message got passed to the higher ups, and they called me up one day and said, hey, you got a Paulding County citizen that's in our ranks down here. He says your airport would be a good airport to hold this exercise. And I said, you bet, bring it on. So we'll be happy when that actually happens. Any other questions?
Terry, I noticed you sent an email this morning on the industry moving into Covington Airport, and it was in this morning's paper also. One thing you failed to mention, I believe, in there, and that was and it ties into all of the work around here, the construction and everything, and what we're trying to do, what you're trying to do with everybody, and also our great partners with the county. They're trying to do, and I think it said that that industry is bringing in about 1,000 jobs.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we need to keep in our focus and everything, is what we're doing for the community. And I think, and I appreciate you sending that email out and really identifying probably if there's any shortcoming that we have, and it's one that everybody has, and that is nothing but transportation. You've got to be able, for these industries, you've got to be able to connect them to the main arteries that they need to move their goods in and out.
Yeah, the company is called Archer, and they've already signed a contract to deliver the first, and it's a little conflicting. In one place it said 100, and then it said in another place that United Airlines had actually bought 200 more, so maybe as many as 300 of the first airplanes that roll off their production line have already been sold. And they've already paid about a $25 million down payment on the first somewhere between 1 and 300 of those airplanes. And so this is a huge explosion that's taking place in aviation. These electric vertical quiet taxi, you can think of them as taxis. And there are lots of companies in this space. There are other companies that will be looking to move to Georgia, and we want to be ready to capture one of those, because yeah, I'd like to have those 1,000 jobs and the tax money that goes with it. So that's why I sent that to y'all, just to show you what's out there. And this is in our backyard, it's Covington. They're, if you look on the map, they are a mirror image to us. You know, we're just right outside the Class B airspace on this side of town. They're just outside the Class B airspace on the east side of town. And our airports are very similar, and in many metrics, like quality of the runway and things of that sort, we've got an ILS, they don't. We're ahead of them in some areas. Of course, they're ahead of us in some areas, and we are competitive in that space. And if we're ready, we will get one of these big companies one of these days that will bring this industry base to this area. And we just want to be ready when that happens, so that we can take advantage of it. And think about it, we're going to have 100 kids a year graduating right here, and they're all going to need jobs. And those jobs are in these kinds of industries. And if you read that article carefully, the tax incentives were based on a minimum pay, I think it said $31,000 a year, which is $15 an hour. I mean, that's not, you know, that's not $60 an hour, but that was the minimum. And so, you know, these are good industries, clean industries, good jobs that young people are going to be clamoring for, especially the ones that are going to be coming through our own school here at our own airport. And it would just be tremendous if we had jobs lined up for them the day they graduate to go working, so they don't have to move out of town.
Well, I think our plan and also the focus that is here at the airport, the focus that the county has, the community, I think we're gonna get there.
I do too. I think we're on the right track. It's exciting.
Any other comments? All right. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda, yeah,
Kirsten here.
yep. Right here. Right here.
Oh, there she is. I want to introduce our newest employee. Kirsten is our housekeeper now, and today's actually her first day, so we'll let you know at the end of the day how she did. All right.
Got a question up here.
I had a question.
Oh, okay.
My name's Travis Morris. I'm a resident in the county,
Oh, okay.
aviation professional. I just wanted to see what the future was for maintenance here to kind of drive some of this traffic in.
So we have a maintenance facility here. We've got Johnny Jenkins with Silver Comet maintenance in the big hangar. We have AvWest, who's an avionics shop, who's just opened up here, and they're downstairs behind the FBO desk. They've got the rear space of that rented. We've got the museum that you're going to hear from in just a minute that has tons of maintenance, but it's all volunteer. But the other maintenance will be driven by the industries that come in and set up shop here. And that we can't predict because we don't know who that's going to be. But we've got space for 30 corporate-sized hangars in this area just to the east of the terminal building that we're working on every day to get online, so that and that'll be about the size of the big hangar that's over here on the west side. And we hope to have lots and lots of businesses open up over the next 10 years. But who they're going to be, I can't tell you exactly.
Sure. And I have one other question. Is there any plans for UASs and drone operations, or?
So drones is a whole nother topic beyond scope of what I've got time to go into here. The mixing of drones and manned aircraft has some issues related to it. We're working through some of that with the FAA now, but drones are here to stay, and they're a big player in the industry. Sure.
Yeah, I know they're offering big grants right now, the FAA is, for developing airfields for this
Right.
stuff, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next on our agenda is the Museum of Flight Directors report. Christine?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So our murder mystery dinner was a success. Thank you, Stacy and Terry. It was phenomenal. We had so much fun. Dave, what'd you think?
I
We're
love
doing it again?
Yeah, amen, definitely.
He's starring it.
Oh, yes!
All right.
It was a lot of fun. I thought it was
Actually,
great
it's
how
got
the crowd got, you know, the attendees got so involved, taking notes and taking pictures, and it was a lot of fun. And I know it's something that, you know, Paulding hasn't had, you know, before, so hopefully. Who knows where the script is for Arctic Air? Somebody told me there's a murder mystery script called Arctic Air. I think that may be our next one. I'm having trouble finding it.
Are you able to disclose how much was brought in on that?
Roughly, we still have to do the donation to the Anna Shaw, but $6,000. So that was a really good fall event for us. Which leads to, we're going into, Pete and I are working on our calendar for next year. We will be doing the murder mystery dinner again. It looks like we've picked a October 21st, so that it's not on Halloween weekend again. That made that a little difficult. We're going to ICAST next month, set up our air show schedule. Of course, we got our gala, and we're looking at having our open house again this year. It's just a matter of where. With all y'all's construction going on right now, I don't think here it could work. Terry might not like, oh, I'll be extra. I was really excited. I got a phone call from Home Depot. They reached out to me and want to do another project for us. So I'm supposed to meet with Trevor this afternoon. We're gonna go over like the petting zoo area and see what project we want to do. One of the things I'm thinking is maybe a picnic area, 8 to 10 picnic tables, you know, where we can utilize it for things like tacos on the tarmac, or the Food Truck Friday was a great success. With warm weather, they can sit and eat with the airplanes. Something along that line is kind of what I'm thinking. And then just an aside, you were at our open house in 2021. Texas Raider was that B-17 that was at our open house. So we lost 3 of the guys that were with us that day. But we are looking forward to doing one again this year. So Nancy with the Texas Raiders had called last week before that accident, asked if we'll be doing our open house this year. So I think we're gonna be taking up donations and making sure we send flowers when we do them more. So let me
You know,
know.
how many more of those B-17s are still air working?
I do not.
They're a very small number.
It's getting less and less for sure. I think, I'm kind of concerned, from an FAA standpoint, y'all remember Congress, that one congressman was wanting to shut down warbirds. They shouldn't be flying, we need to preserve them, you know, and I think that this one could bring that back to the forefront again. And I also know that our insurance jumped $3,000 the year 909 crashed. So, in just, you know, 1 year, boom, $3,000 jump. So, I don't think the fallout from that's over. It's very sad.
All right, thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, I hope we don't need a motion for this. Probably won't get a motion, certainly won't get a second. I'm not sure what this is for. I guess you do.
I do, I know all about this one. Harold's term is coming to a close, and Harold has permanently moved now to one of the most beautiful spots on earth, which is Union County, Blairsville, Georgia, which is where I go on the weekends. And his wife, I think, is pulling him away from Paulding County, and so he's announced that he's not gonna run for re-election to the board in this post that he's so ably held. And we just wanted to show our appreciation to you, Harold, for I have been so blessed in the time that I've been here. You've got an ex-chairman sitting right next to you there. We had Boyd, we had Calvin for so many years. I mean, just so many great people, and you're one of them. And just the contributions that you've been able to make, especially since you became chairman. You know, it just seems like every phase that we go through, you know, it was good that Dave was our chairman when we were taking on the FBO. That was just incredibly helpful to have him in there. And so now we're in this huge construction phase. And of course, you've got just an incredible background in construction and civil engineering, and you've been so much help to me in particular, and I know the board as well. And so, as always, we present a plaque. This is your payment. This is your compensation for all the good things that you've done for us. And
Well,
thank you so much.
I appreciate that, and the real reason I'm leaving, I am going to a higher paying job. So, no,
They
I
give you 2
appreciate,
bottles of water?
I do appreciate this. I have been very fortunate in my career to have been associated with some really fine people and some projects that I feel like have really made a good impact. A lot of them for the citizens of this state, around the state. But this one here, and seeing what is going on in this community and seeing the backing that this airport is getting, and just being a part of that with the folks that are sitting around this table, and some of them are not here today, but all of them, the ones that I have been fortunate enough to be around, I've just enjoyed it, and it has been a real blessing to me, and I really thank you. Thanks a lot.
I think we've been moving to get away from Harry, but you're going.
See, I'm right on the road. See, when I got to the place, I didn't know he was there. Okay.
We can meet at the Blairsville Airport and the Aviator Cafe.
Yep, we just don't want any more of them planes coming down in the front yard like one of them did. Okay, the next thing on the agenda, entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2203, approving a project to extend runway 31-13 to 6,005 feet at a price not to exceed $5,000. This ties into our, what we just,
25.
25,000.
He's already retired.
What did I say?
You said 5.
5?
I like that.
Boy, he was quick, evidently he thinks it's gonna cost more. Okay, but anyway, we discussed this at a previous, meeting a little bit, and, would you like to, say a few things more about it?
Yeah, I would. So there is nothing new about this. If you go back and look at the 2008 airport layout plan, all airport layout plans have an existing column, an intermediate column, and an ultimate column. And that kind of guides the direction that the airport is supposed to be moving in and designing towards. And that is part of what drives our CIP, our capital improvement plan, our investment plan, our program every year, and as far as determining what projects we're going to invest in and what the FAA will contribute towards and so forth. And we had this project going on back in 2013 as a part of the commercialization of the airport, which of course never happened, and that's not going to happen. But that didn't take away the need that was seen in 2008 to have a runway of 6,005 feet long. That is completely independent of those two things. The airplane that we have operating out of here today, the Gulfstream G650, cannot take off with a full load of fuel, for example. You know, they need more runway than what we can offer at the elevation that we're at, which is over 1,000 feet in elevation. And so it was always seen as important, and it was important enough in 2008 that they went ahead and paved the runway. So the runway is out there. All we have to do is put up the lighting and change the paving, and then a few little minor things like get FAA approval and that sort of, you know, all the paperwork that goes with it. And so that's the purpose of this resolution, is to, and this actually is at the request of GDOT, to send the message that A, we support this, and B, both co-sponsors are in lockstep on it. And so there is an exact duplicate of this resolution that is sitting in the inbox of the county and is tentatively set to be on their agenda for, I think it's December 13th,
Correct.
that meeting. And at that meeting, there will be a like resolution passed for the Board of Commissioners, at which point we will then notify GDOT, here is our resolution from both co-sponsors that we are ready now to take this next step to put into operation the runway that has always been there. And I sent y'all the two drawings, technical drawings, and I know that Harold stayed up late the night I sent it, reading it and becoming familiar with it and finding the typos. But the part that we're implementing with this resolution is 12 runway lights and a can of paint. Okay? When you boil it down to the simplest way to explain it, We've got to repaint the 500 feet end out here in the form of a displaced, what's called a displaced threshold. And what that means is we're going to change the chevrons, which identifies a blast area, with arrows, which identifies a displaced threshold. And doing it that way means we don't impact the reels, the pappies, the 1,000-foot marker, the approaches. Nothing else gets affected by that. So it's a very, very cost-effective way to extend this runway. And so from the 3-1 end, you can take off or land with the full 6,000-foot distance. From the 1-3 end, you can take off with the full distance, but you land at the displaced threshold. And that was always the plan. That's how it was contracted in 2013 when that project started. And that's what we intend to do today. And that's very common. I just did kind of an informal count of looking at airports across Georgia, and about half of them actually have displaced thresholds, some on both ends, for various technical reasons. And so this is a way to maximize your takeoff distance without having to totally rearrange everything about the aeronautical design of the airport.
What's our limiting factor on that end? Is there
So the limiting
obstruction?
factor was parcel J, okay? We didn't
Yes.
own parcel J.
Right.
And so when the city of Atlanta agreed to sell to us parcel J, that took that restriction away. So now we own the airspace over which we will be flying.
Okay. So eventually, we could address that end and make it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's a matter of money.
Yep.
And utility. Do you really need that extra 500 feet for the landing distance? Right now, we don't have an operational need for that. Because again, what we're really after is on our ILS getting the full runway distance, okay? And then for takeoff, being able to maximize takeoff load.
Yeah, I just think towards the future that could be
It
possible.
absolutely could, and there is, the only limiting factor is if we remove that displaced threshold. Normally, when you put a displaced threshold in, it's because you've got an obstruction.
Correct.
We have no obstructions
Okay.
on that end whatsoever, because everything is flowing downhill from the end of the runway, so we're good there. But a new set of pappies is about $30,000 or $40,000. A new set of reels is about the same price. You'd have to remark the entire runway. There are other things that have to change about the airstrip today it just doesn't make financial sense to do that. But if we want to, we can in the future.
Right, and I'm going towards the standpoint of the marketing position for the airport because Peachtree Cab doesn't have it, Fulton County doesn't have it. We just did our master plan at Fulton County, and while we do gain some pavement, we don't gain enough. They're pushing for EMAS for us.
Which is a
so-
horrible answer.
I know, right? But.
Yeah, you know, they just installed that at Cartersville.
Right. So it could set us apart from everybody else.
Yes.
It's a possibility. So I don't
Yes,
want to get to the
absolutely.
weeds, but I was just curious, was it an obstruction? And then I
Nope.
forgot the parcel. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this resolution?
Any comments, questions? The resolution it's in your package, if anybody's got any questions. Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion to adopt resolution 22-03 approving the project to extend runway 31-13 to 6,005 feet at a price not to exceed $25,000. All right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, the motion is adopted. Okay, our next thing is, we'll need a motion to go into closed session for purpose of discussing personnel, real estate, and litigation. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we go into closed session for personnel, real estate, and litigation.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are in closed session, and we will be back shortly. We're back in, I'll call this, section back in session here. The next thing on the, well, I'll report that there was, the only activity we took is we just approved the minutes from our last meeting, so that was it. So with that, any comments or questions? Yes, sir.
I just have one thing. So in looking at the calendar for December, our next meeting would be on December 21st, which is getting dangerously close to the holidays. And I am going to commit to y'all that I'm gonna do everything I can to delay any business to January. I can't promise that I won't have something that's urgent that we need to take care of in December, but I'm gonna try very hard to give y'all a month off next month. And then we'll just pick back up again in January.
Okay. All right, we'll notify everybody whatever the outcome is on that, okay? Okey-doke.
If, this is, flesh out boards, there's, you know, I don't know what people are gonna do, and I may be calling y'all about who you might know or recommend for a position on the board. So,
Is there any talk about pay increase? Just saying. For a friend.
Okay, all right, well, then, I guess before I ask for a meeting or a motion to adjourn, I just remember Thanksgiving is coming up. Other holiday season is right behind that, so, you know, you want to be mindful of that, spend as much time as you can with your family, because that's what counts, so do that. And also remember our friend Frank, he's going through another surgery tomorrow, and, I hope it's very successful. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
And everybody seconded. All right, I guess that means this is unanimous. Okay.
turn out this morning at EDO.
We are adjourned.